When it comes to weapons in D&D, we have a plethora of options available. However, the rulebooks don't provide us much detail on these weapons, leaving us to fill in the gaps of how our weapon looks and feels with our own imagination. Due to this lack of information, I'd like to go through and examine the weapons of D&D to foster a deeper understanding of what they truly are. Over the course of this video, we'll seek to answer: what is this weapon, both in history and in D&D? How is it different from the other weapons available? And does it need to be made better, and how can we do so? For today's topic, let's look at a two-handed weapon that lets its user channel their inner Unga Bunga, the Greatclub. A traditional Greatclub is a staff or stick, usually made out of wood or iron, that's large enough to require two hands to use properly. Generally, it can measure in at 2.5 meters long and weighs between 5 and 15 kilograms. Some great clubs would also have iron studs, spikes, or bands attached as well, for added force or puncturing damage when impacting. While heavy, this weight was historically balanced along the entire length of the weapon, making it surprisingly maneuverable in combat. The Greatclub shares a lot of its history with the regular club, largely due to it just being a bigger variant of the club. While the regular club was known to exert up to 4,000 pounds of force on a hit, the Greatclub can exert over double that, measuring in up to 9,000 pounds of force in a single swing. Coupled with its long reach, this made the Greatclub exceptionally tailored for crushing enemy armor, attacking vital spots on an opponent like the skull or shoulders, or clearing obstacles on the battlefield. With historical discoveries of blunt force trauma dating back as far as 10,000 years ago, the club itself is one of the oldest weapons mankind has ever used. With its association with strength across history and mythology, the Greatclub has been viewed similarly. In Greek mythology, for example, the demigod Hercules would use a Greatclub to overcome the labors he had to face. Similarly, Japanese mythology attributed the Greatclub to the Oni, a kind of demon known for their superhuman strength. While uncommon in historical use, the best real-world example of the Greatclub was in 14th century Japan by feudal samurai. This Greatclub, known as the kanabo, was used on foot and horseback as a blunt weapon that could break bones just as easily as it broke armor. While not in use anymore, the Greatclub remains a part of human history and mythology, finding modern representation in gaming and fantasy settings as a crude but effective weapon. In D&D, the Greatclub is described as a larger, heavier version of the club, sometimes augmented with spikes, nails, or bands of iron. The Greatclub's stats have been changed a bit across the different editions of D&D, with older variants being classified as martial weapons that cost up to 5 gold pieces, weighed 3.5 kilograms, and dealt 1d10 bludgeoning damage. In 5th edition, the Greatclub is classified as a simple weapon that costs 2 silver pieces, weighs 4.5 kilograms, deals 1d8 bludgeoning damage, and has the two-handed weapon property. Compared to the other simple melee weapons, the Greatclub effectively doubles the damage dice of the normal club, while also doubling the silver cost and hands required to use it. As the only simple melee weapon with the two-handed property, it would normally be able to fill that damage roll for classes that lack proficiency with deadlier two-handed martial weapons like the Maul, Greatsword, or Great Axe. Unfortunately for the Greatclub, though, almost every martial class that would reasonably use the Greatclub starts with proficiency in martial weapons. The only real exception to this is the Cleric, but they only lack that proficiency if they choose a domain other than Death, Tempest, Twilight, or War. As a result, the Great Club finds itself in a position very similar to the regular club, a last resort weapon that, while cost-effective, should be replaced with a martial weapon as soon as possible for that character to remain effective in combat. So, the Great Club is in a bit of a rut in 5th edition, with little to no mechanical reason for any character to use it. But what if we want to use a Great Club for roleplay reasons? Perhaps we want to play as a samurai warrior who uses a kanabo to bludgeon armored opponents. Or we want to use an ogre's Great Club against them. If we leave the Great Club as it is now, those characters would be handicapping themselves in combat. So let's look at some ideas on how to improve the Great Club and make characters like these more viable. My first suggestion is to give the Great Club back its 1d10 damage dice. In making martial weapons feel better to use, simple weapons got nerfed pretty heavily as a result. Bringing the Great Club's damage up to where it was in 3rd edition and Pathfinder makes it on par with versatile martial weapons. The main downside of this is that it would invalidate those versatile weapons in terms of damage, specifically the Warhammer, but I feel that this would make the choice between the Warhammer and the Great Club come down to whether that character would benefit from the versatility of dropping a shield to two-hand a weapon, or if they'd be better off always two-handing their weapon with the Great Club. Plus, this change wouldn't affect the Maul's position as the highest damage bludgeoning weapon, so there's still room to get a better martial weapon later in an adventure. The next suggestion I have would be to add Pathfinder 2nd Edition's expanded critical effects that they have for blunt weapons. In Pathfinder, when a critical strike is rolled with a weapon, that weapon's group adds an additional effect onto the attack. For Great Clubs, this effect allows the attacker to knock their opponent up to 10 feet away with forced movement. This gives the Great Club an extra utility roll to move opponents around the battlefield, but it only occurs on nat 20s, which means ogres using Great Clubs won't be able to push the party into nearby chasms. Currently in 5th edition, this effect is provided through the Crusher feat, so this would replace one of the benefits of that feat. But I feel that having this push effect as part of the weapon or category innately allows more players to use these fun abilities and makes it even more fun to roll a nat 20. My final suggestion to make the Great Club more viable in 5th edition would be to add the Reach weapon property to it. The Reach property adds 5 feet to your reach when you attack with it, as well as when determining your reach for opportunity attacks. Found on glaives, halberds, lances, pikes, and whips, there isn't currently a reach weapon that deals bludgeoning damage. Giving this property to the Great Club allows characters using it to have greater control over the battlefield, synergizing with the Sentinel or Crusher feats to stop enemies in their tracks and/or push them back with sweeping strikes. This suggestion also works in tandem with my previous suggestion to give the Great Club its 1d10 damage dice back, as this makes the Great Club as viable as the glaive, halberd, and pike. But even if you keep the 1d8 damage dice, this is trading that little bit of extra damage for more utility on the Great Club. Now, at the end of the day, these are just a few of my own suggestions on how to make the Great Club better in 5th edition. If any or all of these changes were implemented, the Great Club would go from being an underutilized opportunity weapon to being a deliberate choice for characters who want a cheaper bludgeoning option for the early days of an adventure. This lets players tailor their gameplay experience to fit their roleplay experience, all while remaining a valuable and effective party member in combat. With that, we come to the end of today's video on the Great Club. A weapon that was nerfed into obscurity, by tweaking it slightly to bring it back to that viable spot in the weapon roster, the Great Club can bring a lot to characters who use it. Many might say it should just stay where it's at, as some weapons just need to be worse than others. But what do you think? Do you like these alternate options for the Great Club? Did you have something else in mind that would make it a bit more viable? Or do you think the Great Club is fine where it's at? Be sure to let me know in the comments down below. If you'd like more deep dives into the weapons of D&D, make sure to let me know with a like or comment on the video. You can also find links to the Alt-Roll Discord server and our Ko-fi page in the description. So if you'd like to learn more about D&D or help support us here, you can check those out as well. However, that's all I had for you today. Thank you all for watching. Make sure to have a great rest of your day, and I'll see all of you next time.